Podcast. I'm your host, Abby Melcher, and in this podcast, we address the personal and the business issues that female entrepreneurs face in their day-to-day lives. So my guests today, two of them actually, is Heather Hobbs and Beverly Steele, and they are the co-founders of the co-host actually of the Bitches Be Brave podcast and co-founders of the Brave Enterprise. Hi Bev, hi Heather.
Hi, Abby. Nice
Hello.
to be here.
Thank
Nice
you for
to meet
having
you.
us.
Okay. So today's topic is one they're both passionate about since they're both working moms and they both have their business and they both have kids, and so sort of like how exactly do they juggle all three at the same time, and how can you find a balance if a balance actually exists for all of this? So how about you just introduce yourself individually?
Yeah, thank you. This is Heather. And, it's when you go back and look at my past, I studied health and nutrition. That was always a fundamental part of my life growing up. And I found myself, getting into corporate America and working hard. And that's something, part of my personality is definitely to work hard and just put your head down and keep going. And, that's all great until you fast forward and you have a family and you have a husband and kids and a house and a mortgage. And, a couple years ago, Bev and I have been friends for well over 20 years, and we were friends before husbands and friends before kids. And, one day we just looked at each other and went, oh my God, like I am not living a healthy life. Like I am stressed beyond belief. I don't sleep well. My health is going downhill. I don't really even have time for fun or running or any of the things that brought me enjoyment anymore. It became just this rat race of working and taking care of your family and feeling like you were failing at all of it. And, we really just looked at each other and said, is this normal? Is this just us? Like, how come nobody else seems to be talking about it? And that was where we decided about a year and a half ago that we wanted to be a voice, because we do believe that there's so many other families out there. And it's not just women, because you've got a lot of women now working. So men are picking up a lot more of the domestic responsibilities. And that we wanted to be a voice and to let other people know that there is a way to create more balance. And we'll get into that later. I think it's not really this fantasy land of a place called balance, right? It's getting to a place of where you can let there be crazy times, but make sure you find time for some peaceful times too. So yeah, I'm a mom of two boys, 16 and 14, and just, excited to be here today and to be sharing our passion and our purpose. So Bev, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah. This is Beverly. Yeah. And, Heather and I, we are still working in corporate America. So we're still in it and we're living it. And we really, as Heather said, we're looking around and thought, gosh, is anybody else dealing with what we're doing? We were going to the school and dropping our kids off, and all the moms seem to be just, being great moms. And then we go to work and we want to be a great employee, and no one seemed to be having the struggles at home that we were and having balance. So we just really thought we'd give a voice to really women that are working and have kids, and it's not easy, and we wake up every day and we think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, get myself fit? Or why can't I do like everything that I want to do at work? Or why can't I be this great mom? And, what is wrong with me? And we really don't believe there is anything wrong with you. For the listeners here, there's nothing wrong with us. It's just that the culture today is out of balance, and everyone talks about work-life balance and what more can you do to get your life in balance. And we really think that it needs to be a collective conversation with companies, with employers, and with ourselves. Like, what is realistic?
Okay, that makes sense. I like the last thing you said about about the companies and you looking at yourself. But now my question is, are the companies really responsible, or should they be responsible for you having a balance? Are they in any way at fault that as a working mom you don't have time for your family, or are you supposed to like figure it out on your own and create that time for yourself?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. because Heather and I talk about this a lot. Is it a company's responsibility? I wouldn't say it's the company, but I think our leaders need to show what is real. The great thing about this time right now is we're getting to see people that we work with in their homes and with their families. We're seeing CEOs on Zoom meetings with their toddlers, crawling all over them. And Heather and I like to say that this is a time you can be unapologetically human. So yeah, I think that the company culture has a responsibility to show that you have a life. It's not work-life balance, it's just life. And family is part of that, and flexibility and support needs to happen.
And I would add to that I think, so many times companies put things in place that they think looks good on paper in terms of how they support employees. But it's a win-win if a company helps support their employees, because in the end, studies have shown that 66% of people working do not feel that they have balance. And there's like short and long-term consequences to that affect the profitability of a company as well, right? Because if you don't have balance in your employees, you're going to have lower morale, you're going to have lower employee engagement, you're going to have burnout, turnover, lower productivity. So it's definitely going to impact not only your employees, right, but it's going to impact your total productivity of your company as well.
Okay. So what would this balance look like? Do you need to have I guess end of the year trips, mid year trips, fun days or something? How would companies actually implement this balance?
I think there's a couple pieces to it, right? I think that we need to, number one, educate and teach. It starts with the leaders. It starts from the top down and how they're modeling work-life balance. Because if you have leaders saying, oh, we support work-life balance and we want you to do this, but then they're the ones that you see them working on their vacations, you see them sending emails while they're on, trips with their families or on the weekends at all hours. And it puts that pressure. And so you need to be walking the walk and talking the talk as a leader. And I think that you need to empower and educate your employees how to find peace and how to let go of stress and all of that. But I think from a company standpoint too, it's, how can we give people freedom? As Beverly said, I think during COVID, it has actually been an amazing wake-up call to see how can people work from home and how can you manage your schedule so that it works with your life and not maybe just 9 to 5, right? For me, I have teenagers, so I get my biggest work hours in, my most impactful work hours early in the morning before they're up. And so if I want to start my day early, but maybe end my day earlier, that's what works best for me. Or if I want to on the weekend make up and do some emails because that fits for my family and my schedule, I think we need to give employees flexibility to work when it works with your life instead of forcing it in. I think that makes it just tough on families. Bev, I know you can probably add a lot more too.
Yeah, I'm glad that you use that example, because we've talked about that, where a company may say, oh gosh, we don't want you doing any emails after 5 or on the weekends. And they're thinking they're really supporting that employee by saying they don't want them working that extra time. However, if you do have things that you need to accomplish during the day for your family, it is a benefit to you to be able to catch up at night. So to be able to do that is big. So I think that what is key is employee engagement. Companies may think that having all those great healthy snacks in the workplace, a kombucha bar is really, I'm supporting health and wellness. But what they really need to find out is what is the pain points for their employees that is going to cause them stress and not be able to have the full life that they want.
Okay. Two things really stood out to me. So the first part was Heather had mentioned for the companies giving their employees the flexibility to work in a way that sort of suits their schedule or suits their daily life. And wouldn't the company sort of have the fear that if I let my employee work at a time pace that suits them, I would not be able to sort of monitor what they're doing. I would not be able to get how do I put this? My money's worth. That you might be spending prime time doing something else. Is that fair sort of there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very old school management, that
Mhm.
thought process, but it definitely still exists. I mean, I've heard stories about employees right now that are working from home that have to be on a Zoom meeting all day long so that they can be watched. You know,
Oh,
that
it's creepy.
it's just um, real true leaders need to manage by results. And I mean, I can speak for myself. No one can be harder than me at my job than I am. It's not going to take somebody looking over my shoulder to make me want to excel in what I do. I'm self motivated. So, depending on what your role is, you need to hire correctly. You need to make sure that the employee is a fit, and the employee needs to make sure that the company is a fit. And this is a really good time as companies and employees are trying to decide who will come back to the workplace and who may continue to work from home, to really
Yeah.
have those conversations and evaluate what works for you. Some people love it. Some people love being at home, that flexibility, no commute, all of that. They're able to, add in a walk in the morning that they weren't able to do before with the commute, or lunch with their kids. Some people do not like it. They want a routine. They wanted to get up in the morning, hit the gym, get to work, and then when they check out at 5 o'clock, they're all about their family. So this is really the time to have these conversations and make sure that what the environment that you are in is going to support the life that you want.
Okay. So now in the employee engagement part, you talked about how the company needs to sort of have a conversation with their employees to sort of understand how the company itself can make sort of life easier and better for the employees so that they can also put in that effort into growing the company, because if your employees are grumpy and miserable, then that would definitely not translate into like productivity in any way. But now the question is, if they let's say HR or whoever's in senior management goes around asking each employee, what can we do to make the office experience better for you? What can we do to make this office space healthier and safer? And how can we make your work life more productive for you? And they are afraid that implementing this change might come with new systems, new processes, new expenses. Um, how would you convince them to take this leap when it's going to cost them so much?
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern of employees for sure, of our employers. But at the same time, I think you really need to do a survey and to see and to look at the statistics about how low productivity affects your overall business, right? When you have these employees that are not engaged and they're burnt out and they're stressed out and they're having anxiety, they're having more missed days of work, they're having financial struggles or marital problems. I mean, these are things that come in and affect your overall creativity. And so I think you need to look at what is that costing you, right? Versus implementing some things that might be very simple. And it just might even be changing the culture, right? Just changing a culture and making people feel that they are supported and they are heard and that they can talk about things that are going on, and be understood. I think that just, alone could be that simple. Um, a story, my oldest son is on the autism spectrum. He has Asperger's. And it's something that's tough, and it's something that I often didn't talk about at work. It was kind of like, all right, this was my struggle that I was going through. But what I found, and this is recently, is that there are other people that have challenges, whether it be, kids that may have special needs, or whether they have a parent that they're taking care of, or even pets, right? Pet loss. I mean, but just people are going through things. And when you feel like you can't talk about this and you feel like you're alone and you're just struggling, it just makes it tough. So I think if you create an environment that's open and understanding, you're going to really have tremendous results.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that
continue,
I was
continue.
just going to add to that question. I think that we've seen this in the U.S. as far as the investment that companies make in employees in the tech industry here. There's been in past years a big competition for employee talent. So these tech companies are bringing things into the work environment that does cross over to what their employees want at home, whether it be bringing their dogs into work or special needs as far as food, or they're starting to take care of their dry cleaning. They're adding all these different benefits to make the employee's life easier and to make them more intertwined and more committed to their job and wanting to stay with the company. So I think that if you just look at those scenarios, the investment in your employees will keep them there and keep them endeared to you. And you don't have to worry about them leaving, because we know how expensive it is for employee turnover. So if you're not finding ways to make your employees' lives easier and better, they may leave.
Yeah, that's true. But now I understand it from the company's perspective how this could help. Now, from the employee's perspective, do you really want to intertwine your work life and your personal life together?
Well, right. That's a great. It's funny because we just I've been studying and reading Brené Brown, Dare to Lead, and we talk a lot about vulnerability. I always have a hard time saying that word. And I think that there is a level of where you want to be human, right? Beverly talked about the unapologetically human. But you also reserve the right to privacy, right? I'm not saying we should be bearing all of our marital issues, financial issues, and so forth.
Sharing.
All over the workplace. But I think to acknowledge and be empathetic of different challenges that people face, I think that's an important piece, right? To just be authentic in a sense that these things do exist. We aren't able to, quarantine off our lives in separate compartments. They do mix.
Yeah, and I just believe that we do a disservice to other women, other working moms, by not talking more about the challenges. I think as a younger employee, I never wanted anyone at work to even think that I was a parent or that I was having any challenges, because somehow it meant that I wasn't dedicated and I wasn't focused. And I regret that. I think that I could have supported other women, and I'm hoping that what Heather and I are doing is going to really resonate with our younger listeners, that hey, you know what, it doesn't have to be so separate. You don't have to just be all that at work and then all that at home and always feel like you're never really that great at anything.
Okay, now my question is this: like, typically, I guess in your first few years, when you start working in a corporate job, you don't really want to show any sort of vulnerability. You don't really want. You just sort of want to look like you have your shit together. You don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start mixing things, and then you start letting this little chinks in your armor show, and like your confidence level might not be that high anymore.
Well, that's why I think you have to start at the top when I talked about it earlier. I am older. I think things have definitely changed a lot. I think with millennials, there is a lot more of accepting of, different parts of your life. But back in my day, I mean, I was working when I had to hide my pregnancies for months because I was afraid of what that would mean. Or when I was pumping and nursing, I would, it would be something I would have to leave and try to hide because just I didn't want people thinking that I wasn't all in at work.
Wow.
There was times where you didn't want to talk. I mean, I was shamed one time. My son had called, the school called that he had thrown up at school, and I was working with a manager who's like, "Does this happen all the time?" And oh my, and I just it was a very different environment. I think
What
we've
a
come
douchebag.
along. I know.
You're like, yes, he
Oh,
throws up
yes.
every
He's
day.
such a
Yeah.
jerk.
Oh, it was awful. And I was like, I cannot, go into this meeting until I know. And I was in a different state. I used to fly a lot. And I was like, I need to make sure that my husband gets there. And, could feel the shame. And so I think these things are real. These things have happened, that we've come a long way, but in some industries, not so much, right? Some industries more than others. But it's something that I think, we have to be able, so to your point, to your question, if you're starting off in your career, do you come in like, hey, this is me, love me or leave me? I think it starts at the top. And what are we as leaders showing our employees? Like, how can we highlight leaders in the company that they're with their families, that they're making time to be with their families, that they're putting family as a priority, they're putting their self-care as a priority. Those are things I think we need to demonstrate, and then that makes it much more easier for your new starting off, career person into the workforce.
I absolutely, and Heather and I are both very hard working, hard driving type A personalities, and we are by no means saying that we suggest that you be soft in your work environment. We teach our children good work ethic, doing a little bit more than the next person, but that doesn't mean if you're that type of a person that you can't have a full life, that you can't be a parent, that you can't be there for your kids. You can have it all. You just need to be in a work environment where you're able to have flexibility and you have support from your company, that you can be real. And if your child throws up, it's not going to be a big deal.
I'm just picturing somebody with a mustache. Like, does he throw up every day?
Exactly. This happens all the time.
Wow. Oh my God. So like now you have teenagers. As parents of teenagers, for both of you, does it get easier compared to having younger kids?
No.
Oh boy.
No.
There is no survival idea. Oh my God.
It's all different, right? I mean, you've heard the saying, bigger kids, bigger problems. And I think, it's especially during the COVID time and people are working from home. I mean, there's no doubt that if you have young kids who can't take care of themselves, right? They can't get themselves to the bathroom or can't sit down and do their Zoom classes by themselves, or, I mean, obviously that's a whole different level. But I do have teenagers, and as I mentioned, one of my kids is, it has Asperger's, which he's a bright kid. He's super independent. He's very, very highly functioning. However, he's spontaneous. He's impulsive. So when he wants something or needs something, he's going to be banging on my door. And so it still makes working from home tough. There's a lot he can do, but yesterday he was like, there's nothing to eat. So he ate an entire bag of cookies. That's what he'll do. And so it's not always easy for anybody. And I think we can't assume, right, that no matter what the ages are, I think that in general, it's still tough, not to mention just the emotional stress I think that you deal with it. Just being a mom, I think that lasts forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think, I always laugh about the fact that I'm like, oh my gosh, when my kids are out of diapers, it's going to be so much easier. And then they're out of diapers and they're toddlers. And when they get through this, it's going to be so much easier. Well, I mean, that just continues to go on. But I think what happens as your kids get older, you stop having as much support with other moms, because you start your kids, you're not walking them up to the class anymore and talking, and you're not having those play dates together. And that's a big, important time and support. And as your kids become teenagers, that becomes less and less. And when they hit high school, when you're really going crazy, you don't really have that support anymore. So I think that it gets more difficult, and women really need to seek out support from their friends and take time. It's so, so important that you have time outside of the family with a girlfriend, go for a walk, go for a run, go out to dinner and have that time.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so now I understand from the corporate side, from the employer side. So now from a working mom's partner or her spouse, how can they alleviate some of this stress on her, so that it doesn't feel like the work is on her, the family is on her, the kids is on her, all this pressure is on her? How can they help without sort of making her feel like she's being undermined?
Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot, that I think if you want to be successful and you want to try to have some sense of balance in your life and also feel like you have a sense of yourself, you need a team to do it. You can't do it by yourself, and that doesn't mean, I mean, because there's a lot of single parents out there. It doesn't mean you have to have that spouse. I mean, some people are going to be really lucky that they have that amazing spouse who's like 50% in to pick up the load and completely understanding.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. But I think you can create that. You can create it by creating a community, both within your workplace, but around your community, your neighbors, your friends, your family. You need to be able to lean on people. And you need to have people like help hold you accountable. I was very guilty a couple years ago of feeling that guilt of wanting to give 100% at work. And then when I was home, be 100% the best mom in the world. So I would be the
Yeah.
one doing everything: shopping, cleaning, laundry, driving, carpool, volunteering, room mom, all the things. But I didn't have time for me. And I was seeing that I wasn't having fun and I wasn't making time for my friends. And that is important for your well-being and your soul. You need all of that. And so I think, if I could just say one thing, it's just, you need to be able to carve out that time. And I know it sounds so selfish if you think I'm so busy. Where in the heck am I supposed to find time for self-care? And what does that even mean? But it means taking time to rejuvenate yourself, right? What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And when you do that, you're going to be more energized and better able to give to everybody else that is important to you.
Yeah, and I think Heather and I both had stay-at-home moms that raised us, that were amazing moms. And so that's our definition of a great mom, is doing everything that they did. So, we would do all of those things and then want to be all that at work. And without a spouse that really can step in and support, it's not going to be successful. And I think we as young moms made a lot of mistakes in those areas, and it took a lot of blow ups with our husbands to realize that we need to renegotiate some of the responsibilities, for sure.
Oh my God.
And redefine. I mean, so as Bev said, like you have to change how you define what is a good mom. Like, so what we saw, that necessarily isn't what being a good mom is, right? It doesn't mean you have to stay home and you have to cook all the meals. It means you give love and you show your kids how strong and resilient and able you are, and being present when you can be present. But I think, yeah, it's how do you redefine what you think is supposed to be the story of a good worker, good mother.
I get it. So like, what about the guilt though? Because I'm using like Bev when she was like still a young mother, before she had like the renegotiation with her husband. So at that point, I feel like Beth at that point, if she was to take a day off just to go out, just maybe go do her nails somewhere, go for a walk somewhere, just be away from work, be away from the kids, and just breathe, I feel like she would feel guilty about taking that time off. So, like, what advice or what tip can you give to young mothers who are still at that point in which, when they take this small time of the day for themselves, the guilt comes that you could be working right now, you could be with your kids right now, you could be with your spouse right now. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think you just have to really do it as a test. Say, I'm just going to have a little experiment here, and 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 tell yourself that you're not going to feel guilty about it, but you're just going to evaluate how you feel after you take that time for self-care, and you'll realize that how important it is to your health. You'll feel better. Even just going for a walk, getting outside, all of those little things, going, like I talked about, meeting a girlfriend for a little bit, that's all self-care that you need to take that time for. But unless you just get very present in the moment and how you feel without it and how you feel with it, then you're not going to really make that change and make it part of your day, part of your week, part of your life.
As parents, all we want. We want our kids to grow up and be happy and healthy and well-rounded, right? And great
Yeah.
contributors. And I always think about this, like if our kids were to grow up and have this life that we feel as being stressed out and anxious and feeling guilt and feeling like we just can't win, would we want that? And the answer is no, we don't. And so, but we're modeling it, right? We're modeling that behavior for our kids. And I think the best thing that we can do for them is show them that just as we want for our kids, right? Like we're setting up play dates. We're making sure that they have fun and that they have play along with academics and along with, all the faith or whatever it else is that we feel is important for them. We well round their lives. We need to be modeling that for them.
Mm-hmm. So, in an ideal world, or I guess in this world, what would work-life balance look like for a working mom?
Well, for one, I don't think it's so the word balance makes you imagine a scale with things perfectly balanced on each side, right? I don't believe, and we don't believe that that's the truth in at all. That's not an attainable piece. I think it's more of a rhythm, right? How do you have harmony in your life where the times are going to be intense and stressful? I mean, certain careers, you're going to have times that are super intense from work and you're not going to be, having the same amount of time with your family. And then the opposite. I think it's about being present and being okay with being present wherever you are and making sure that you're really, enjoying those times that you have. And to not put that expectation that it's supposed to be this perfectly balanced scale of work and life, and to be forgiving for that.
Beth?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's not going to be, you're not going to always be able to give 50 to work and 50 to home. But no, when you do have to give that extra at work, what is your plan to then focus on the family time? So it may mean, I mean, Heather and I were doing a lot of travel before this pandemic. And you really think about, okay, I am traveling this week. So what can I do on Friday or this weekend to spend some extra time and to, make sure that I have that. You just can't continue to stay on the treadmill and go and go and go and go and not sit back and evaluate what is important to me. Where do I want to spend my time? For me, I definitely want to get outside and exercise. I want to have time with my family, and I want to kick ass at work. I mean, those are like super important things to me. So yeah. So I make sure that, I plan my days and I plan my weeks that way. Sometimes I'm kicking ass more at work than I am working out. And so then I'm like, you know what? It's Saturday this morning. Mom's going for a long run and I will see you guys all back for breakfast when I get back. So yeah, like Heather said, it's just really a rhythm.
Like now, I'm not sure how things are in US, but right now most of us here in Kenya are working from home, and so now you see your kids a lot more than you would have before, and then the family dynamics have sort of changed because now you've had a bit of time to like adapt to your kids learning from home, you working from home, all of you being in the same space. So when this is over and then you have to go back to work, that dynamic would change and shake up a bit. So what can moms do sort of still preserve that closeness you found at this point?
Yeah, I think it's go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's funny because it has changed, right? I mean, because as Bev said, I used to be on a plane every week prior to this pandemic. And so when it first happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm loving this time at home. This is so fantastic. I'm getting so many things done. I'm able to cook and have family meals all the time. But then you fast forward, right? We've been here now a few months and you're like, okay, I could use a little me time. I could use some time away. And it is tough, but it goes back to, okay, how do we have to readjust our schedules? How do I have to talk with my family and my husband to say, I have got to start, fitting in some me time because this is making me insane. And so I think we just have to be able to readjust and recalibrate, because the truth is, yeah, it's tough with like kids around, and whether or not they're still in school, it can be challenging. So I think you just have to honor that and say, how do I recalibrate and readjust?
Yeah, and I think I have a high schooler, and then I have the three daughters, one in high school, one a freshman, and one a sophomore in college. So happy to have them back. The time that we've had together is time we never would have had, and I'm so appreciative of that. However, they make a big mess. They make a mess. And we had to have a few family meetings and just say, okay, we're all in this together. So they've picked up the slack with grocery shopping, cooking, really stepping in. And I think it's kind of like the same pattern on getting your spouse to renegotiate things. I think that your family's willing to help. I think we just are more hesitant to ask. We don't want to be the nag. We don't want to be asked. We want them to be happy, but you deserve to be happy too. And everyone just doing a little bit can really make a change, so you can have the balance that you need.
What? Okay, I don't have a kid, so maybe I'm probably wrong. So, but I'm going to use an example with a friend of mine who I now see almost every day, and I'm tired. And so sometimes I sort of like expect her to know what I want, what I'm feeling, without me actually saying it. Because I feel like if I say that I need space, I am just exhausted, I might come across as being whiny or naggy or annoying. So like, does that also apply here?
I say 100%. I mean, I think that we all need to do a better job of asking for what we want, or asking for what we need. And instead, what happens is, everybody wants to be heard and understood, but if you don't let people know, then it doesn't go away. Then it kind of builds up. And then it's just going to come out at some point, and it'll probably be over something so ridiculous and so small, and everyone will think you're crazy. Well, you're really not crazy. You've just been stuffing it.
Oh my
God. And that happens with everybody. I mean, it's funny because I think we just have to recognize it, and I think it helps to tell people, like, look, I mean, I am short-tempered today. I have low patience today. I'm going to need some space so I don't say something I regret or do something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my husband goes, like, on Tuesday nights he would play basketball and then go have dinner with his friends. And if it ever got canceled, I'd be like, whoa, well, I'm not cooking. This was the night I'm not cooking. That kind of thing. So yeah, exactly.
Oh wow. Okay, so now that you've been doing this for like a long time, are there any misconceptions about working mom, or about the balance or the rhythm of things that you sort of want to clarify, or any myths in there? Like, apparently work-life balance does not exist, but any other myth you want to be bust?
I think there's such, when you dream about having kids and you dream about getting married, you think that you've got this and you know exactly how things are going to work out. And I think the first thing is to say, you can't, right? You can't make things turn out necessarily the way that you think they are. And it's about saying, but how can I enjoy what it is, right? And enjoy this every day is just a new challenge. And what are we learning from it? And I laugh often because I love my kids to death, but they're both teenagers and it can be challenging. And instead of me like getting frustrated saying, okay, how is this making me grow? Because the personality that I have is I like to control things. I like to manage everything. And I realize you cannot always manage your children's lives, especially when they are becoming these adults and these little men. And they're going to have their own opinions. They're going to make their own decisions. And I think you have to let go of that desire to control everything. That has been my biggest life lesson in becoming a mom.
That probably wasn't easy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with the company that I'm with now for well over 20 years, and when I had my first child, I was going into an office and managing like 45 people, and I was miserable. And I had to be brave at that time and have a talk with my employer and just say, this isn't working for me. And because I was a valued employee, they made some changes which allowed me at that time to work from home and have flexibility for my family. And I am so thankful that I was brave at that time, and made that change. Because fast forward, when I took my oldest daughter to college and we dropped her off, it was the last meal we had when we dropped her off. She said that she would know she was a success if she had a life like mine. And I thought, what? But she so appreciated that I was able to follow, my career, but also provided flexibility and was there for them as a mom. So I think that if anyone's listening and they are struggling in the work environment, just, be brave, have those conversations. If you're a great employee, the company will find a way. If it's not a good fit, then you make a plan to make a change.
I like how you mentioned how you're a valued employee and they listen. So what about for others who are like, if I speak up and talk about how this is not working out for me, I might lose my job. What's your advice for them on that?
Well,
I
I think it never hurts to ask. I mean, you have to, how you frame up, what you need and what you're going to give back to your employee and your employer, and how it's going to make you a better employee, right? Because you are an asset. And so you have to really be able to say, these are my strengths. This is what I'm going to give to the company, but this is how you're going to get the best of me. And I need you to accommodate that. I think you need to have more strength and faith in your own abilities to speak up. I think that's one regret. If I look back on my career, that, so often we put our careers in the hands of our employers. We let other people kind of determine instead of really speaking up. And I think we need to not be afraid to do that for ourselves.
Yeah, and just as I have managed many people in the past, and if I had an employee that really was struggling and I may lose them but had no idea that there was an issue, I would want them to come talk to me. It's really like any relationship. You can't expect to get what you need by being quiet and feeling like you're on your own. You can talk to your manager and make it collaborative, come with suggestions on what you think may work. That would be my biggest advice.
Yeah, that would probably work in an office space where there's a lot of open conversation, a place where your employees are not quite intimidated with their manager, that you can actually talk to them about your worries and your concerns without sort of keeping it to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are those leaders out there that are not as easy to approach, and it may be something that you put yourself on a timeline on how long that you will be able to work in that environment unless a change is made.
Okay. And for each of you, what's like your advice, both to an advice you would give a younger version of yourself, and an advice you would give to working moms who are really struggling right now with work and families, maybe families and their business. So, what advice would you give to them?
I guess I'll start. I think it's that, as I mentioned earlier, is that you are good enough. You are doing it. It's not easy, but you're doing a great job. And I think that you just need to have that strength to say, you know what, I just need to give myself forgiveness and let go of some of that guilt and try to be present. And you are good enough. You're better than you think you are almost every single time. And if I were to go back, to my younger self, it would be to do that. It would be to just give myself some forgiveness and to not be afraid to ask for what I want. Because I think so often as women, we just kind of hunker down and we work so hard and we wait for somebody to notice us and we wait for them to say, hey, we want you to take this next position. Instead of asking for it, or like we talked about earlier, instead of saying, hey, look, this is what I need for my life, to be able to do everything the best that I can. And we need to be able to have the strength to just ask for that and know that you've got this.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And I think you need to be authentic and you need to be real. I mean, I think my younger self did try to put on a facade that when I was at school, I would never let any of the school moms know that I even worked, because I thought they would think I was, not a great mom because I wasn't staying home. And when I was at work, I never wanted, especially the men that I worked with, to know, you know, a, that I was a mom and had kids, because I thought they wouldn't think I was focused or dedicated. And I would change that, because I think that when we have that attitude, we are part of the problem. We are just making this problem continue. And so that's the biggest thing I would change for sure.
Well, before we sort of wrap up and talk a lot more about the podcast, is there anything else you want to add or any question I should have asked?
No, I think it was so good. I think that it's, I appreciate you giving us the platform to really talk about this, because I think so many times we think we are alone. We think that we're the only ones that can't hold it together. And I think that I love that we can have this voice to be able to tell others that you're not alone. We are just like you. And by the way, we have not conquered this. I'm laughing because even this morning I text Beverly, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got roofers on my roof and guests at my house and dogs barking and kids texting for food. And, it's never easy. It's not like I've reached this epitome, this beautiful place of peace and harmony every day. It's called real life, and you are not alone.
I was just going to say that if you want, just go to listen to our podcast, Bitches Be Brave, or go to our Instagram or Facebook. If you're having a day and you just think, gosh, am I the only one? Am I crazy? Our posts are always about something that is really, really happening in our lives. So if something resonates with you, just, reach out to us. We'd love to talk with you.
Do you guys do coaching or consultation calls for working moms who are sort of struggling to find this rhythm between work and family life, and yourself as well?
We haven't started a coaching because Heather and I have been focused on a book that we're writing that will be coming out in the fall, but that's definitely something that we've talked about. And, I think that we could definitely, it may be something in our future. I don't know.
Okay. But the best way to keep follow this progress is from the website.
Yeah, you could find us at www.bitchesbebrave.com. And there is a contact page in there, so you can find us there and email us. But we're also on Instagram, which is Bitches Be Brave, and you can always direct message us there, or on Facebook at Be Brave. And we always love to hear from our listeners, and we always try to respond to everybody. So that is a great way to find us and reach us. And we have a lot of great content on our website as well, from past guests that we've had and learnings about how to be brave. So yeah, check us out.
Yeah, I'm actually on the website right now. I like the brave motivation page. It's so cool. Like all these amazing quotes about bravery. It's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, those are all quotes from our previous guests, and it's just, it's really fun.
Ooh,
we always talk about being brave, because a lot of what holds us back is our own fear, the fear within ourselves. And so we talk about being brave and how we can support each other.
I like that. There's a quote that I had seen earlier. I'm trying to find about how being brave doesn't mean you no longer you're no longer afraid. You're still afraid, but you just sort of like overcome it. But it's let me find that particular quote so you can say it aloud.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's like one of the first things that grabbed my eye. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? The word overcome in there somewhere. Here it is. Being brave is not the absence of fear, it is overcoming it, by Ray Davis.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good.
I love it because it doesn't, it's true. It's stepping into the fear. It's not being afraid of it. You've got to, for Bev and I, starting our podcast was one of the scariest things in the world for me to do. I did not think that I could find 2 seconds of spare time in my life to start to do something that I felt passionate about. But it was Beverly who, we tell the story that she kind of threatened me. She's like, I'm going to do this with or without you. So, are you in or not? And of course I'm super competitive. I'm like, yeah, you're not doing this without me. But what we found is that just, we were able to carve out an hour and to make a podcast. And when we started that, just that one episode, it just started to feel so good. And things started to just build and build and build, and you started to get feedback. And I think when you make that time to step into something that might be so scary you think you can't do, but what you get is so much more energy, and you find and you feel so much more passionate about everything you're doing in your life. And so things just start to come together and they start to build. And so that would be just one big thing I would recommend is, you think you can't, but when you take that one small step, you'll be amazed at what you can do.
Standing ovation.
It's nice having you guys here. Oh my gosh. I've learned a lot about being a working mom.
Thanks for having us, Abby. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry about the blackout. I really wanted to have a video.
No,
that's okay.
Got to see you for a brief moment, but no, this was so fun. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll let you know when the episode comes out.
Okay, great. Yes, and we'll promote it on our side.
Yes. There's no power right now, but tomorrow morning my time, I'll send the release forms.
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Bye. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abby. Have a good night.
Stay safe and healthy.
It's good night here, but like morning or afternoon there?
Morning, 10 a.m.
We're just getting started.
Have a good morning.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Be brave.
Bye.
Bye-bye.